Okay, sorry about that. I think we're live now, and this is the age of technology, and I am still lagging behind. So thank you for joining. And this morning's sutta is nutriment or nourishing, as Bhante Sujato has translated it. And it's a very important sutta because it talks about both the hindrances and the enlightenment factors. And these two are opposed to one another. So if we're nourishing the hindrances, we're denourishing the enlightenment factors. And if we're nourishing the enlightenment factors, we will hopefully denourish the hindrances. But we have to be aware of the hindrances and what is nourishing them. So I'm going to see if I can screen share, and this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. If I can't, I think I'm just going to, I'm just going to read. If you have Sutta Central, if you're able to access that, or you have your own hard copy of the Wisdom publication, this is old tech. It's actually kind of amazing. You know, we take all this technology for granted, and even having the printed word is an amazing thing. So I'm going to read from Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, and I'm going to make some comments as we go along. And this was at Sawati. And I'm just going to jump into the teaching. And what, bhikkhus, is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sensual desire, and for the increase and expansion of risen sensual desire? There is, bhikkhus, the sign of the beautiful, giving frequent, careless attention to it is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sensual desire, and for the increase and expansion of arisen sensual desire. So there's this careless attention, and Bhikkhu Bhante Bodhi translated as this careless attention, which is ayoniso manasikara. And it's also translated as unwise attention. And Bhante Sujato translates it as I have a hard time remembering it. It's like irrational irrational application of mind is how he translates it. So I'm used to the careful or careless attention. Careful attention would be yoniso manasikara, and rational application of mind is how Bhante Sujato would translate yoniso manasikara. So this is an important concept to understand, is that how we attend to things, how we apply our minds. So applying the mind to the sign of the beautiful, the subha nimitta is the Pali word. If we apply our mind inappropriately or irrationally or carelessly, then we're feeding sensual desire, and that brings us away from the awakening factors. We're maybe obsessed by something that appears beautiful to us and we want it. It brings up desire. So it could be another person, or maybe even something like a sports car or something like that. And, oh, that's so beautiful. I just have to have it. And then our mind becomes obsessed by desire for something. And at any of the sense gates, what's appealing. This is the sign of the beautiful, what is appealing to us. So if we feed that, if we're feeding sensual desire by focusing inappropriately or carelessly on what's appealing about something. And this is what we should be aware of. And what bhikkhus or meditators, anyone that it doesn't exclude other people, anyone who's on the path, he's addressing, is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen ill will, for the increase and expansion of arisen ill will. There is a sign of the repulsive. Frequently giving careless attention to it is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen ill will, for the increase and expansion of arisen ill will. So this is a patigga nimitta. And patigga is it's a underlying tendency, and it's translated as aversion. Here it's translated as repulsion, repulsive, the sign of the repulsive, but it's what irritates us, what we're adverse to, what we're repulsed by. So let's say for me, the sound of a motorcycle or the sound of the refrigerator or something like that is irritating to me, and I start focusing on it, but it's just sound. And Ajahn Chah would say that the sound isn't disturbing you, you're disturbing the sound. And that's because we're focusing on it inappropriately. We're focusing on it carelessly or unwisely, or that's Bhante Sujato said, irrational application of the mind to it. So I want it to go away. I want it to stop. I don't want the person to be revving up their motorcycle at 6 a.m. or something like that. So then this is feeding ill will and anger. So this is why it's important to be aware of how we're attending to things. Are we causing more suffering for ourselves? Are we feeding anger and ill will? And I start hating the person who's, I don't even know, say, I don't even know this person. They're going to work and they're revving up their motorcycle at 6 a.m. So it's like, that's not rational, obviously. So I'm just making more suffering for myself and possibly others. So that's the nutriment for ill will. And the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sloth and torpor. So when we're meditating, I'm talking about things in daily life, the other ones, but this is during our meditation, feeding desire, feeding ill will is a big hindrance or obstacles. And during our meditation, we might feel this drowsiness, and dullness is another way it's translated. This is Bhante Sujato's translation of sloth and torpor. And this, what increases and expands the arisen sloth and torpor, and what brings it to arising is discontent, lethargy, lazy stretching, drowsiness after meals, sluggishness of mind, frequently giving careless attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen sloth and torpor, for the increase and expansion of arisen sloth and torpor. So this is a careless attention to these things are unwise or irrational. So if I kind of want to luxuriate in these things, like or I just want to check out. See, it says discontent and lethargy. So if I'm attending to them inappropriately, I'm feeding them, and I maybe even encouraging them, because maybe if I'm discontent, so then I just want to check out. I just rather be asleep. I just rather be dull. So if I'm unaware of that, then I'm just feeding this discontent or sluggishness. And then also drowsiness out after meal. So if I overeat and then try to meditate, that's not so wise. That is the nutriment for sloth and torpor. And what is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen restlessness and remorse, for the increase and expansion of restlessness and remorse? There is, bhikkhus, unsettledness of mind, frequently giving careless attention to it is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen restlessness and remorse, and for the increase and expansion of arisen restlessness and remorse. So there's this unsettledness of mind, restlessness. It's kind of interesting because I used to wake up like at 2 a.m, and then I would have this anxiety, and then it almost like I was finding things to be anxious about, and so the bringing up things to worry about, and it was like I saw it as a pattern, and then what would happen is that I would be awake for a long time and then finally get back to sleep. And the next morning, what I was worrying about wouldn't be bothering me at all. So there is this kind of thing where it could be the body itself is agitated, or the mind somehow is unsettled. And then we actually even find things to worry about. And there may be actual things that are concerns in our lives. Like, if we don't have enough money to pay the rent or something like that. But is it going to help me to worry about it? This is, am I going to, like what happens is we say the same concerns over and over again, and we try to solve the problem, and we try to come up with a solution, and it's like our mind goes around and around in circles, and that isn't going to solve the problem. I'm on the cushion to meditate and not to try to solve my problems mentally, and it's not. So we're just feeding the restlessness or unsettledness of mind by trying to come up with solutions over and over again. And the last one is what bhikkhus is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen doubt, and for the increase and expansion of arisen doubt. There are, bhikkhus, things that are the basis for doubt. Frequently giving careless attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen doubt and the increase and expansion of arisen doubt. So basis for doubt. This is well, there's a simile for doubt where the person is at a crossroads and they're trying to decide which way to go. and they just stand there at the crossroads, and then the bandits come and attack them. So this indecision, this trying to solve or get an answer to a problem during our meditation, especially, or just really wanting a solution right away, kind of, and before we even can rationally work it out, we're still just grasping. So it's a form of desire, wanting the answer, wanting to solve it right away. It's one way I've heard this described, and the solution to this is quite interesting. It comes later in the sutta, how to work with the doubt. So now there's the next section is the nutriments for the awakening factors. Bhante Bodhi translates it as enlightenment factors. And what because is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen enlightenment factor of mindfulness, and for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of mindfulness. So there are bhikkhus, things that are the basis for the enlightenment factor of mindfulness. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen enlightenment factor of mindfulness, and for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of mindfulness. So in the notes, it talks about sati sampajanya, which is a clear awareness in all activities. Mindfulness and clear comprehension is another way that's translated. But so nourishing the enlightenment factor by developing it through our attention to things throughout the day, all our activities, bringing mindfulness at that level to all activities. And then another thing in the notes, it talks about associating with people who are mindful and not associating with people who are unmindful. And the last one is, I have it written down here, right resolve. To have a right resolve is, and that's actually the second of the Noble Eightfold Path. One way is that it, Samma Sankappa is translated, so that our intention is correct, that we're avoiding harmful intentions, thoughts of abandoning sensual desire and abandoning cruelty. So right intention and associating with the mindful people and clear comprehension throughout the day are supports for the enlightenment factor of mindfulness, and frequently giving careful attention. This careful attention is yoniso manasikara, as I was saying earlier, or wise attention, or rational application of mind. And what because is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of discrimination of states. So this is the discrimination of states is Dhamma Vicaya, and this is the second enlightenment factor, and this is investigating the mind itself, actually. There are bhikkhus wholesome and unwholesome states, blamable and blameless states, inferior and superior states, dark and bright states with their counterparts. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the rising of unarisen enlightenment factor of discrimination of states, for the fulfillment by development of the original enlightenment factor of the discrimination of states. So this is interesting because it's actually when you think of the Chitta Nupassana, the in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, these states of mind are mentioned, and the awareness of these states of mind. So attending to our mental states is what it seems like it's indicating here. And I didn't mention that Bhante Sujato talks about fueling and defueling rather than nutriment, nourishing or denourishing. So that's another way to think about it. If we're fueling, adding fuel to the fire, or taking, not adding fuel. So we want to nourish. I like, in the case of the enlightenment factors, I like the idea of nourishing. That in the hindrances, fuel seems really good too, because like it's this burning. It's not. We want to increase. But we do want to nourish or nurture the enlightenment factors or the awakening factors. And Bhante Sujato translates Dhamma Vijaya as an investigation of principles. So it is an aspect of investigating discrimination of states. I guess this is really looking how, is it this or is it that? Is it wholesome or is it unwholesome? Is it skillful or unskillful? Is it blameless or blamable? And so is it an exalted state of mind or is it contracted state of mind? So we're looking at our own mental states and just investigating what is going on in the mind. He says they're inferior or superior states, dark and bright states with their counterparts, frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of unarisen enlightenment factors. So it seems to me that I would be trying to nourish or bring up, and I'm aware of the unwholesome states, and then what is supporting those and allowing those to fade away and to encourage the wholesome states, but just the investigation of them too. Investigating is actually a good translation. Of the mental states. So the next one is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of energy. So this is virya. For the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of energy. There are bhikkhus the element of arousal, the element of endeavor, the element of exertion. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of energy, and for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of energy. So, what is it that brings up energy? We see for ourselves. In the notes, it talks about contemplating the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. For some people, that does inspire a person. What is it that inspires us? What brings our mind up? What encourages us? It could be just, if it's the Dhamma, it's some teaching that was very inspiring, or the Sangha is a member of the Sangha that's very inspiring to us, or the fact that the Buddha, during this time, so many years ago, was able to come to the understanding that he did, and that's possible for us. It's possible for us to awaken. And the teachings that that have been passed down are still relevant today. So this is very inspiring. It might bring up energy for us. So whatever it is that arouses our energy, for some people, chanting. I heard a friend of mine, after evening chanting, she had just so much energy, she could sit for a long period of time. So whatever arouses our energy and brings up this brightness of mind. So giving frequent, careful attention to this is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of energy, for the fulfillment by development of the unarisen enlightenment factor of energy. And what bhikkhus is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of rapture, for the fulfillment by development of the unarisen enlightenment factor of rapture. There are bhikkhus things that are the basis for the enlightenment factor of rapture. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of rapture, for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of rapture. So the whole process of these awakening factors, once your energy has come up, then the rapture will naturally come up. I love to listen to Ajahn Brahmali, and he talks about just this natural unfolding, which your mindfulness is really well established, and then the investigation of states. These two things we can actually cultivate, and then the energy coming up, and then the rapture will naturally come up as an enlightenment factor. But also, one thing I'd like to mention is that if we're keeping our ethical conduct well, then this is a support for all of these factors, especially for the PT, is that if we have no reason to remorse, then our hearts can be glad. We can reflect on, also, if we can reflect on generosity, we can reflect on keeping our sila or our ethical conduct well. And this is a support for joy, happiness, rapture. So this is a support for the enlightenment factor of rapture. Giving careful attention, a wise attention to these things. It's not like an egotistical thing, but it's just not having remorse, the lack of remorse, and the joy, rejoicing in goodness. And what bhikkhus is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of tranquility, for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of tranquility. There are bhikkhus, tranquility of body, tranquility of mind. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of tranquility, for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of tranquility. So this is pasadi bojjhanga, sambojjhanga. And when you start a meditation and you start maybe scanning the body, this is why so many teachers instruct this way, and just allowing the body to relax. So the relaxation of the body supports the relaxation of the mind, and the relaxation of the mind supports the relaxation of the body. So this is at a certain level, we're starting to develop pasadi. But also with the PT, if you go in sequence with the PT, it's very kind of energetic, but it naturally will calm. Especially if you've been bringing awareness to the body and relaxing the body and allowing the body to be at ease, then kind of a natural flow will happen with the PT kind of peaking and then leveling out, just a more tranquility or calmness, peacefulness of both body and mind. And what is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of samadhi? I think Bhante Sujato calls this immersion. Bhikkhu translates the old-fashioned translation. Concentration is, some people object to that. I don't think there's a really a good single word translation for samadhi. It's one of those words that doesn't have a real good equivalent in English. Ajahn Brahm likes stillness. Bhante Sujato says immersion, collectedness of mind. It's not a common state of mind. So this samadhi doesn't have a good translation. I'm looking at Sutta Central on my phone. Excuse me. So I'm finding immersion is how he's translated it. And there are things that are the basis of serenity and freedom from distraction. Frequent rational application of mind to them fuels the arising of the awakening factor of immersion, or when it has arisen, fully develops it. So, what is it? We have to find for ourselves also the basis for serenity and freedom from distraction. And again, if we are keeping our ethical conduct well, if we're doing things that support mindfulness, if we're also the entire Eightfold Path is a support for samadhi. So this is the sign of serenity, the sign of non-dispersal, frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of samadhi. I'm just going to say samadhi instead of concentration, and for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of samadhi, samadhi sambhojanga. So this would be jhana. This would be at least the first jhana. So all that we can do to support the stillness, the quietness, the serenity of mind, and the non-distraction, the non-dispersal of mind. So we have to set up maybe really a time in our lives or during the day where we won't be disturbed, and just the ability to let go and just pull away from all our concerns and just let go. This letting go is an important aspect of being able to have the mind come to stillness, to quietude. So the last of the Sambhojangas is Upeka Sambhojanga, which is the enlightenment factor of equanimity. And what is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of equanimity, for the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of equanimity? There are bhikkhus things that are the basis for the enlightenment factor of equanimity. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the nutriment for the arising of the unarisen enlightenment factor of equanimity, or the fulfillment by development of the arisen enlightenment factor of equanimity. So the support for this, the balance of mind, Upeka is also translated as looking on, just seeing things as they are without the mind wavering, seeing things clearly. So the other awakening factors of support for Upeka, developing these, and the notes here, it talks about, yeah, it's pretty complex note. It talks about using a subha practice to balance the mind. I think if you're overcome by desire, this will help balance the mind. So do what helps balance the mind. If you're a adversive type, like I am, then metta bhavana is probably a better choice to balance the mind. So do what you need to do to balance the mind. This is for sensual desire, because many people or whoever wrote the note is more prone to sensual desire. But for me, like I was saying, it's what is a better balance is metta bhavana. So I forgot to mention too, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And there's like so there's the denourishment of the hindrances, and I'll try to go through this a little bit more quickly. And then there's the denourishment of the enlightenment factors, which is actually not paying attention to what nourishes them. So kind of neglecting what you need to be doing to support the awakening factor. So I'll go through the denourishment, because this is actually what we should be focusing on to allow the enlightenment factors to flourish. So the denourishment that prevents the unarisen sensual desire from arising and the arisen sensual desire from increasing is the sign of foulness. This is asubha. So frequently giving careful attention to it is the denourishment and prevents the arisen sensual desire from arising. So this is, like I was seeing the disadvantage of, or contemplate if you have a sensual desire towards other people and it's disturbing your meditation, then just that contemplating the parts of the body. Just it's really seeing things as they are. It's not, sometimes asubha is translated as disgust, but it's really the unbeautiful. Asubha is unbeautiful. So if you start going underneath the skin, you don't particularly think of as attractive muscle and sinews and bones and organs. So this may be, it also talks about careful attention. So it's not to bring up aversion towards the body or just becoming, bringing up a negative, repulsed state of mind, but it's really to balance the mind out. And the denourishment that prevents unarisen sloth and torpor from arising and arisen sloth and torpor from increasing and expanding is the element of arousal. And I skipped something. I'm sorry. Okay. Ill will is the second one. The denourishment that prevents the unarisen ill will from arising and the arisen ill will from increasing is liberation of mind through loving kindness. Frequently giving careful attention to it is the denourishment that prevents unarisen ill will from arising and arisen ill will from increasing and expanding. So this is the balance when we see if we're just, like I was saying, feeling irritated towards things in our environment, sounds and smells and things that we find ourselves being just an aversive type. If we're developing metta, then this balances it out. Loving kindness towards ourselves, actually, if we're an aversive type. Loving starting out with ourselves and then going towards all living beings. And but particularly if we're feeling hostile towards an individual, it's really important to see the danger in that and to abandon the ill will as quickly as possible. And it is recommended towards oneself. I'm starting with oneself and then eventually getting to the people that are hard in our lives to have loving kindness for. And what bhikkhus is a denourishment that prevents the unarisen sloth and torpor from arising and arisen sloth and torpor from increasing and expanding. There are the elements of arousal, the element of endeavor, the element of exertion. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the denourishment that prevents unarisen sloth and torpor from arising and the arisen sloth and torpor from increasing and expanding. So this is using virya, energy, and like just like I was saying before, what is inspiring to us? what brings up energy in our minds. And it may be that the dullness is because we're pushing ourselves onto the object too hard, or we're getting bored with the object and we need to change the object. So dullness can arise because we're just bored. So how do we regain interest in what we're doing? How do we regain interest in our even the meditation object itself? So what is the denourishment that prevents unarisen restlessness and remorse from arising, and arisen restlessness and remorse from increasing and expanding? There is, because peacefulness of mind, frequently giving careful attention to it, is the denourishment that prevents unarisen restlessness and remorse from arising, and arisen restlessness and remorse from increasing and expanding. So, yeah, this is kind of hard when you're restless to think, oh, how do I bring up this peacefulness of mind? And just like I was saying earlier, that relaxing the body, the tranquility of the body and mind go hand in hand. And also, if we sometimes do, we can attain some peacefulness of mind from time to time. Just what were the causes for that for us? What helped us to bring this peacefulness of mind about? But letting go is one of the keys too, just to be able to say, oh, well, I'm sitting here on this cushion and there's like nothing I can do about this thing that I'm worrying about now. This is not the appropriate time anyway, but just thinking about it isn't going to solve it. So just being able to cultivate this and letting go. And then bringing the awareness back to the body and calming the body. This is what works for me anyway. And what is the denourishment? That prevents unarisen doubt from arising, and arisen doubt from increasing and expanding. There are, bhikkhus, wholesome and unwholesome states, blamable and blameless states, inferior and superior states, dark and bright states with their counterpoints. Frequently giving careful attention to them is the denourishment that prevents the unarisen doubt from arising, and the arisen doubt from increasing and expanding. So this is pretty interesting, as you remember with the Dhamma Vichaya, the investigation of states. That was what nourished the investigation of states. So investigating the mind is itself what overcomes or denourishes doubt. So there's the denourishment here of the enlightenment factors, as I was saying, it goes through improper attention to what actually nourishes each enlightenment factor. So I think I'm going to not read through that and just give a little bit of time to, I don't see any, if you have a question, I guess we just have a few minutes. So if you have a question, you could put up your hand and ask. I don't see anything in the chat, so. Chat here, wait a minute, is there anything in the chats? No, okay. So I hope this is making sense to you. And I think the key thing here is yoniso manasikara, which is proper attention, careful attention, wise attention, rational application of mind. These are all translations I've seen of that. And if we attend wisely, what's going on with the body and the mind, these two work together. This is what helps us with abandoning obstacles, is the five hindrances, and what supports the awakening factors. So this wise attention is very essential. And Ajahn Brahm said that there's five hindrances and there's 7 enlightenment factors. So the good guys have outnumbered the bad guys. so we have the advantage. If we're cultivating the enlightenment factors, then we can overcome the hindrances. So I'd like to offer this for your reflection. If there's, I don't see any hands or anything coming up. So if there's no questions, we can end. And we'll just end with if you have an image in your of the Buddha, I think for me to reflect on the triple gem is very inspiring and helpful to our practice. So we can just end with 3 bows to the Buddha. Oh, thank you very much for your kind attention. I see Buddhita. So we'll end now because it's the end of the time. Thank you very much for attending. Oh, okay.
Aya, oh, okay, she's off, so that means